Hello, friends. It's Lisa Williams. I'm the Chief Inspiration Officer here at Perfect Side Gigs. Welcome to our virtual interview series, Corporate to Entrepreneur. We are so blessed because we are hearing from those that have made this leap themselves into this amazing world of business builder and entrepreneurship. And today we have a really special guest, Mr. David Mammano. Now, David has oh goodness, he's had 25 years where he's built 7 companies from scratch. And what I love about him is that he's now taken that experience and he's helping others do that through his Avante Entrepreneur Group, network group. He has a podcast. He's a prolific author and world-renowned speaker. I'm excited to read your new one, Crash and Learn, David, but is an amazing family man. And I'm just so happy to have you on our show. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Lisa. I love that intro from the heart. You're not reading a bio, and I appreciate that. And I'll give you 10 more minutes to stop. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was fantastic. I really appreciate it, and very excited and impressed with what you're doing as well.
Well, you know what I love is it's been so fun with this interview series because you all have such amazing stories. And I want to start by asking you, I just watched, you have this Mammano Minutes podcast how long have you been doing that?
You know, it's funny you asked that. I want to say about 1.5 years. And I just did it on a whim the first time. I'm like, you know, I'm going to do a Mammano Minute. And I just thought of something I wanted to say, put it on Facebook and LinkedIn. And it was a hit, and it wasn't a minute, so now I call it Mammano Minutes because, you know, I'm an Italian guy from New York. I'm not saying anything in a minute. So I try to keep it 3 minutes or less, right? Try to be succinct. But I'm telling you, it's one of the best things I do. I walk into, you know, Chamber of Commerce events, business events, people that I don't even know come up to me, and they're like, oh, I saw your Mammano Minute today on LinkedIn. And I just love it. It's just, you know, I'm so glad that I can help people in a succinct, quick way, concise way, with some things that I'm going through myself and thinking through, and just sharing that and really trying to share some thoughts and advice that I'm giving myself. A lot of the times when I am, you know, what you see me talking about in the Mammano Minute, I am going through myself, right? And I just want to talk about it and just, you know, because I like to be vulnerable. You know, as you mentioned, my new book is called Crash and Learn. And me and 9 other authors, we write about stories where we were on top, fell down, quote unquote failed, but didn't give up, got back up again to you know, see another day. So I'm all about being vulnerable. And so a lot of times if you see what I'm talking about in the Mammano Minute, I'm going through it myself.
Yeah. So one of them that I watched was you and your son, Alessio.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, because I always think, you know, we're born, I really do believe that we're born kind of in a certain, you know, personality style. And so many times people like yourself, they've really gone through kind of a transformation story. But I'm curious, like, what kind of kid you were, and did you always know that you wanted to be a business builder or have something of your own? Tell us about that.
Wow. So that is a great question. So I was born, you know, crazy, right? Like my parents didn't know what to do with me, right? So I wasn't a mean kid, but I was so damn hyper, right? And so I was born in 1968, December 1968. And by the time I was 5, my parents couldn't even take me out to dinner. Like they couldn't go out to dinner because I was such a pain. I'm getting kicked out of swimming lessons and horseback lessons, and I was just hyper. So my parents took me to and I remember this, doctor, and to see what to do with me, right? And I remember the doctor put a whole bunch of wires to my head and asked me to fall asleep. And I remember I couldn't, and he was getting a little frustrated, right? And so I guess I finally fell asleep. And I remember this years later, it was about 5 years ago, I called my mom. I go, why did you do that? And she goes, well, we just didn't know what to do with you. We couldn't even like go out with you because you would like run away, you know? And I said, well, what happened? Well, the doctor came back and diagnosed you with hyperactivity. I mean, back in the mid 70s, I don't know if ADD, ADHD was a thing, right? But I was hyperactive. And they prescribed this new experimental drug to calm me down. And I'm thinking it was a pre-Ritalin drug, right? And to my parents' benefit, they said no. They were a little scared. It was like kind of still in the testing phase, and they just dealt with me, right? So obviously I eventually calmed down, but I was never mean, cruel. I was loving and sweet, but just really hyper. So that's how I was. But to answer your question about being an entrepreneur, I actually went to college in the beginning to be a dentist. I was in pre-dental at University of Buffalo, which has a big dental school. And I was going to be a dentist forever. My mother's cousin was our dentist, and he was rich. He had a big house, a red Porsche. And as a little kid, I'm going to a boy, right? I'm going to be a dentist so I can have a big house and a red Porsche, right? So I go to UB and do dental, and I do an internship and realize I have no love for teeth whatsoever, right? So I bounce around. I eventually end up in communications and marketing department, and I end up running the college newspaper where I eventually, when I got out of, well, we'll get to this, but when I got out of college, I sold radio advertising for 3 years, but eventually I got out of the corporate world and started my own magazine, my own business, but it all stemmed from running the college newspaper. So, but someone asked me that question, like looking back, were there any signs of me knowing like, wow, I should have been an entrepreneur? And then it dawned on me a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh my God, that was a sign. So when I was 6, it was winter break in Rochester, New York. So you're going to think of snow and lots of it in February. And I remember telling my parents that I'm bored and I'm going to go out in the neighborhood and shovel driveways and make some money, right? And I'm 6. This is when 6-year-olds could just disappear, was still okay, right? And so I remember knocking on the doors. Neighbors were all nice, but they were all set, right? It's February by now. They have a plow service or they have a kid that does it. So they didn't need anything, right? So I remember getting to the end of my street, like now one person said yes, and I'm feeling a little dejected. Walking back home, I'm sure with the shovel behind me and face down. And then I joked that I literally was stopped in my snow tracks with an idea. And the idea was that I would go to the next street over where they hadn't seen me yet, and I would shovel the driveway first. Now, why would I do that? Well, I'm a cute little 6-year-old kid. At least I think I am. And so I shovel the driveway first. I go to the door. I hold the shovel a certain way, my cute little face, right? And I say, hi, I'm David Mammano, and I just shoveled your driveway. Well, as you probably would predict, unless the person was a psychopath, everybody gave me some money. $1, $5. I still remember the Epstein's $10, right? I want to give them credit, $10. And I went back with a pocket full of money. And so I changed the game. I changed the rules of the game, right? So looking back, I should have been like, oh, that's when I should have known I was going to be an entrepreneur.
Right, right. Well, and I feel like so many people, they start a career like you did with, maybe it's because their parents think they should, or, it's just what society tells them to do. And, what would you tell them about the joy that they might experience if they actually were brave enough to follow their gut and really dream,
Yeah, I got to give my parents credit. They never pushed me towards something. I remember as a kid, I wanted to be, as a little kid, you want to be a different thing. You want to be a carpenter. I want to be a carpenter. They were like, great. But they always insisted that I do my best, right? Be the best carpenter you can be. I wanted to own a gas station, right? Because I'm looking, wow, 50 cents a gallon. Wow, this guy must be rich. And they were like, have the best gas station in town. So they never said, oh, no, David, you can do better than that. They always were cool about it, right? So I look back and I appreciate that, right? Because there was no pressure to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, And I do that with my own kids. And I encourage people, don't live your past regrets through your kids. Let your kids, just find their own path. I have 3 kids. I don't push them to do any sports or activities. And I was terrible at sports. So I could be like that father that says, no, you're going to be great at baseball, but I'm whatever that, like my older son, he tried basketball, he tried soccer, he tried baseball, nothing, no joy. Tried robotics. Wow. Came alive. Right. And I'm great with that. Right. And my other kids too, they're finding their path on their own. And I'm open them for trying anything. Right. And then until their fire gets lit, and then we'll support them. And I think that's so important because we all have God-given talents. Right. And really the way to look at it is that we're a pool of water at the top of the mountain. And when the wind blows and we start to naturally flow down the mountain, which way are we going to naturally flow? Right. And let your kids, let yourself flow that way. Right. Like if I was forced, if I'm in Russia, in the 80s and communist Russia, and I was forced to be an engineer, I would be miserable. You wouldn't see this joyful Dave Mammano right now, right? Because I'd be a terrible engineer. I have no athletic no athletic talent either, no engineering talent whatsoever, you know? But, you know, thankful I'm in America, and I had supportive family to, you know, really support me and give me the enthusiasm along the way to try different things.
Yeah, I think I love that. And I do think, I mean, one of my goals in this interview series is that we kind of wake some people up. I think there's people that are living their daily lives and maybe have found relative success, but they're really not, they don't even know they're not happy. You know,
Right.
so what would you say to those people? You know, what was it for you that was like the sign? Okay, I gotta get out of here. And tell us about that first year, maybe what would have been helpful to know, you know, some of your experience as well.
Yeah, so I have a great Aunt Connie, and she's literally she's great, and she's my great aunt. 103, right? Still call her every day. Lived on her own until about 2 years ago. Love this woman, and so about 25 years ago, you know, when she was around in her late 70s, she couldn't believe that she was that age already. She, oh my God, she goes, that went fast, you know, blink of an eye. How did I get here? You know. And that made me think like life goes fast. And I don't want to be that guy on my rocking chair with regrets. Like, oh, I should have tried this. I should have tried that. That really hit me hard. Like, you know, I just turned 51. I remember like yesterday when I was 25, right? Boom. And it goes so fast. So you really have to, in my opinion, if you have something that you're thinking about doing, just, of course, if it's, you know, let it be legal and don't let it hurt anyone. You got to give it a shot. You know, whatever that is, you know, create that bucket list and give it a shot. For me, I was in a corporate world, as we talked about. I was out of college. I ended up selling radio advertising, 3 different stations. And, you know, the people that I worked for, my bosses, nice people, right? Company, good companies, right? Nothing against them, the product at all. But I was miserable, and I was miserable because I felt like a caged animal, right? I would show up to work, and it wasn't my thing. Like I wanted, at the end of the day, when I really thought about it, I wanted to create something from scratch and be in control of it. And not that I'm a control freak, but I wanted to be in control of it because I wanted to put my fingerprint on it, right? I wanted to have the product, you know, have such incredible value, such impact, you know, and have, you know, the culture of the workplace so meaningful, right? And I just wanted to do something special. I just didn't want to be a minion in someone else's big dream, right? And that goes back to like, I don't want to be in my rocking chair at age 90 saying, oh, why don't I give that a shot? So I was 25, and I went and got my DBA, and I started a magazine, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
I love it. Now, you know, you mentioned something about earlier mistakes, and I saw a podcast you did where you talked about mistakes and integrity and forgiveness. And I think a lot of people, because they haven't forgiven someone or themselves, they actually are stunted in life. What can you say about forgiveness and, you know, how that might be holding people back?
Yeah, great question. So you can never move forward fully without forgiveness. No doubt about it. It's like if you are an engine, one of your pistons is stuck and you're never going to fully maximize what you can do, right? And forgiveness of other people or yourself, right? So let's say other people. Let's say I have a friend whose mother was very physically and verbally abusive to him throughout his whole childhood, right? And he was bitter, he was sour, right? And then he came across somebody that taught him that he's not going to move forward unless he forgave his mother, right? And got to understand like what made her do that in her past. Why would she have done that? What were her struggles as a kid that made her turn out like that? And then started having empathy and compassion for her and forgave her. And once he did that, the rest of his life took off. Now, and you know, what I was talking about when you saw that and I don't want to get specific about it because there's someone else involved that I don't want to bring into it. But I did something that wasn't illegal, but in my mind, and people do it all the time, but in my mind, I made a financial decision that was not in my integrity, right? And I felt bad about it. You know, and once I realized that I didn't like that feeling of how I handled that financial situation with this person, I made it right. I corrected the situation, and I forgave myself for making a mistake, acting impulsively, right? Acting more short term than long term. It was just a dumb mistake, right? It was an impulsive decision, and then I realized, and I stepped back, made it right, got it right with the person who was mad at me, and because of that, she is forgiving to me, and we're really good friends actually now.
Right.
So her business is in a better place, and so is mine, because I was able to step back and say, that's not in my lane of integrity to act like that.
Absolutely.
And listen, you know, judge me, but Bible, throw the first stone, right? We've all, like, if you haven't been there, then I don't know, you're a saint. I think it's normal and natural to, you know, step out of integrity. Some people do it on purpose. Some people do it by mistake. I did it by mistake, but then once I realized I was out of integrity, I stepped back, got back on track. And that's the whole, you know, getting back to crashing and learning. That was another learning experience for me, you know, part of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love one of the talks you did about how people compare themselves to others. I think you called it the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And how, you know, and I've seen this so often where people, they do want to do something great, but they continue to focus on where others are at and just think, I can't possibly reach that. Instead of just focusing on, one of my mentors talks about stay in the step you're in, you know, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and how you could maybe help others, you know, get out of that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you know, I think when you start something new, you're excited, but then maybe a couple of weeks later, you're like, I have no business doing this. Who am I to be doing this, right? Because maybe you as an example, maybe you start a digital marketing company, and you're not Gary Vaynerchuk by month number 1, so you feel like an imposter, right? And well, guess what? Gary Vaynerchuk had month 1 as well, and he even talks about, like, his first videos, he got like 10 views, you know. And you know, but step by step, that obviously improved. So everybody, I think what people have to realize is everybody has a beginning, and and nobody is an expert in the beginning, and we're all paving the road in the beginning. We're all making it up in the beginning, right? And we're not, ideally, you're not doing it like other people. You're doing it with your own fingerprint, your own way, so that you could stand out from what I call the sea of sameness, right? So don't be, you know, people say, oh, Dave Mammano, you're going to be the next Tony Robbins. No way. I don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I'm going to be Dave Mammano. Tony's great. Don't get me wrong. I love Tony. He made a big difference in my life. But I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be Dave Mammano. I have a different flavor of what I can offer. I have different experiences, right? Different journey. And how can I bottle that up and help people?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think we have these fruits of the spirit that we're blessed with, I think. And one of the things I've noticed about a lot of my experts is that you often seem to have this kind of innate, you know, faith. Maybe it's God, maybe it's a higher power, you know, but it's a guiding force that seems to be very hopeful and positive. Can you share a little bit about your own faith journey and what impact that's had for your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had faith in my life ever since I was a kid. I mean, you know, Italian Catholic, always going to church. I was an altar boy, and you know, I had a great experience. Always involved with, you know, great priests who were just incredible people. And I still go to church. You know, well, right now we're in the middle of the coronavirus, and I can't go to church. But I watch it on YouTube. Our priest still faithfully does mass every day on YouTube. But I'm an usher at our mass. My 2 boys are altar boys, and my daughter is a lector. she reads reading number 2, and so we call it the Mammano mask because it's so funny. We're all doing something, But faith has always been strong to me because I feel it. I feel God and Jesus in my life. I feel my relatives that have passed, my relatives and friends that have passed and gone up there. Every morning I say my prayers and I talk to them, and I say hello to them by name, and then I talk about what I'm grateful for. I thank them for shielding me through this life and helping me every step of the way. I'm here by the grace of God every day. There's no doubt about it. And there's times when, I don't know what that next step is going to look like. Right. And all I see is a big valley that I'm about to fall through. And all of a sudden, wow, this path, this bridge opens up. Right. And I never could have predicted. And that's when I know I'm like, all right, thanks once again for proving, God, that you're real. Right. It's just like, thanks for that reminder. Right. And, because there's no way that you could plan and predict everything. That's why they say leap and the net will appear, right? Because sometimes you just, especially entrepreneurs, they can't plan everything. They don't know what's going to happen. You talk about taking the stairway, right? We're not going to, I talked about this in my Mammano Minute a couple of days ago. We're not going to reach the 20th level of the steps, in a minute, right? We got to focus on that first step and then that second step. And then rely on faith. It's part of the equation to get there. Certainly we have to be instigative. We have to work hard. We have to be creative. We have to surround ourselves with mentors and good people and teachers, and we got to do the hard work, right? But in my business plan, part of the equation is faith, right? Because I don't know. And most business owners, if they look at their business 10 years ago, it's nothing like it was in the beginning. You never could predict most of the time where you're going to be, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that has to do with just having faith that the journey is going to be guided by a higher power.
Yeah. Well, and then I think it's about actually stepping out in faith that you will be equipped with the skills you need. I always wonder, there's so many people that they see the life that someone like you has, and they desire it, but then they're not willing to do the things that you've done. What would you say to people about, the work ethic needed and the diligence and the persistency and consistency that is important for business building?
Well, you have to create habits in your life that you do every day, every week, every month. You have to. People say that that they manifest things. I think that's step one, right? Manifest things. Like I could talk about that. I want $10 million tomorrow. I can manifest the heck out of it. In my opinion, it's not going to show up at my door tomorrow just by manifesting it, right? I have to also have some affirmations about like, what am I going to do every day, every week, every month to create that $10 million, right? So I think it's the 1-2 punch, the visualization and the affirmations, right? Like creating the habits of success. So, okay, I want $10 million. Well, what do I need to be doing to get there, to make that happen, right? So I think you have to go into life every day with the mindset of a very purposeful plan, right? Mm-hmm. And, I get up every morning and I have a discipline of what I do. Right. And I've talked about it once again in my Mammano Minutes where, I don't even think about it now. First thing I get up in the morning, I have a big glass of warm lemon water. Right. And look it up, Google it. The benefits of that are amazing. And then I pray and then I read and then I journal and then I work out. And I also do some meditating and or deep breathing, right? So this is all before like 6:30, 7 o'clock, right? And then during the day, I set aside time. I have certain buckets of the day where I'll do different things, and I schedule these things. I don't want to rely on my own discipline. Even somebody like me and you, we can't always rely on our own discipline. I just like to look at my calendar and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to work out next, right? Or right. Oh, look at that, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is my sales prospecting time, right? 10 a.m. to noon, I'm going to be contacting my current customers to just check in, see how they're doing. Like I schedule things like crazy. People laugh at my calendar, but it's a very instigative plan. There's a book or a saying, I think it's a book, hope is not a strategy, right? We certainly, it's step one, having the hope and the faith. But we got to meet, a lot of people say, we talk about God, we got to meet God halfway, right? Yeah. God's there for us, but he's not going to do everything. If you're on the couch, you're watching Netflix all day, he's probably not going to do much for you besides, add some extra pounds and make your brain a little fuzzy, right? So, but he is there for you if you're doing the work, right? Right. So, and I'm a big believer in that. So the more I do these things, the better my life gets.
When, when people are watching this in the future, we are in the midst of the COVID crisis right now, where I think we're on, week 6 of lockdown at the moment?
I thought it seemed like year 2, but yeah.
Well, I know. And you and I both know we've been around long enough. We've gone through 9/11 and dot-com burst and 2008 and now this, and we've seen innovation come out of adversity. What would you say to those people that are, still sitting on the sidelines and what they could possibly create if they were brave enough to get on the field, and
Sure. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and there's 2 ways to look at the situation, right? The metaphor is, if you step in horse poop, most people might complain and get upset. And then there's somebody like me or you that say, oh my God, awesome. There's gotta be a pony around here someplace, right? Right. So, this COVID-19 phase, you could view it as stepping in poop. And listen, in many ways it is, right? It's sad. There's, people are dying and businesses are suffering. But at the same time, and we could acknowledge that and pray for that and honor that those unfortunate things happening. But at the same time, I would think God, and it's our responsibility to say, how can we use this time to better ourselves when we get out of it, right? And so, my thought is, for me, I'm 51. So let's say I've got another good 25, 30 years of real good work, right? And then I'll retire. Then I'll work half days, 12 hours a day. But I'm saying to myself, how do I want to spend that next 25, 30 years doing something that I love doing, right? And it's something that gives me pleasure, and an innate talent, a superpower. I get joy from doing it and energy, so I want to do more of it. How can I turn that into my revenue stream? That's what's going through my head, right?
Love it.
And, and for me, I what you're doing right now, hosting. I love hosting my podcast. I have a local TV show where I interview entrepreneurs. I love that. I have events, right? I have my own events. I host those. I host other people's events. I host panels. I hosted another company's webinar today. I was the host, right?
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah. So I'm like the Ryan Seacrest of the business world, right? But I'll be the Dave Mammano of the business world. But so my thinking is, how can I take that love and God-given talent of being that host and leverage that into a business? And I'm thinking maybe I could help other businesses start podcasts, and I'm the host of it, or host their webinars, or host their lunch and learns, right? Like I'm that objective host, right? That connects the audience and the experts, right? And so I'm talking to some businesses to see if that's something that they would pay for. But man, oh man, if I could be a celebrity business host, I'm happy now. Just imagine how happy I'd be, right?
Oh well, just create that new affirmation. You got you know what.
Yep.
Right?
I started writing it out last night. I said right now, here's what it looks like, and here's what I got to do. So yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. I can't believe we're almost out of time. Goodness. I have one more question though.
All right.
Fit in. So I love to ask this question of people. So you have children. You have 3 children.
Yep.
If you could not leave your children any of your assets, just knowledge, what would you leave them?
I would leave them in this is what I'm doing now, because you can't just all of a sudden leave it to them. I would leave them an incredible attitude, right? Because That's the one thing that you can't take away from somebody, right? Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He writes about that they took everything from him, right? Clothes, food. I mean, like, he was left with nothing except, he said, they can never take my attitude. They can't. Like, that was his choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make my kids always realize that it is their decision on what attitude they're going to bring to the day.
Oh, I love that.
So that is what I would leave them
I
with.
love it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's an awesome way to end. I have 3 kids as well.
Yeah, how old are they?
We are kindred spirits.
Absolutely.
Mine are 20, 17, and 12.
Okay.
I had to switch husbands to get my girl, but we have an amazing blended family. We're very blessed. So that's a whole other story.
That's a whole nother podcast. The trade-in, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, David. I know that you actually have a free gift that you wanted to extend an offer to our audience. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. My latest book called Crash and Learn, and it's 10 stories about entrepreneurs, and I'm one of them, that share their journey of being on top, falling down to the bottom, but instead of crashing and burning, we crashed and learned at the bottom and rose again, right? Like the Phoenix. So I'm going to give away a free book. So a free book to your audience, and you can decide how we're going to give that away.
Okay, awesome. Well, friends, thank you so much once again for joining us on this amazing journey, hearing from these experts on our corporate to entrepreneur interview series. Please tune in next time, and bless you all in your life journey. Bye.